Everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Winner and the Mailman podcast. I'm Bryanna Winner. This is Dave Brunz, and today with us we have the Scottsbluff softball coach, Daniel Fox. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Dan, well, I was going to say, Dan, you started with this team a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And, you as far as where they're going, I mean, you guys went to state tournament this year. You guys got to play down there. You guys had another great record. Dan, what is it with your teams? I mean, I've known Dan a long time, and he has never had a team that was subpar, and he always seems to do the right thing. Dan, tell me about this year's team.
I think just what we do is, I preach to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we do, we need to give it 110% in practice. And I think the girls buy into that. They always have, and so our saying's always been not work out play, and I think the girls believe in that. So I think that started back in the days with the Twisters, and when you see success, the girls will they just even work harder, so.
Well, he talks about the Twisters back in the day, and that's a team that Bryanna's not familiar with, but this is a team that Dan probably had to build an extra wing on his house just to put all the hardware in, because these girls won everything: Colorado state titles, Wyoming state titles, Nebraska state titles, national tournaments. I mean, these girls were the epitome of success when it came to travel softball. And you had the 16Us back then. You've got some older kids now. How is it, to coach these kids that are, you didn't really get to develop them in their early years,
right?
And now you were always used to having your kids that you developed up through the Twister system, and then now you inherit these kids that they've already got some playing time, trying to get them onto your philosophy. And I know with softball, that's kind of important.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what's been probably the hardest thing for me right now is I'm not taking a team that's a bunch of girls that were 12 years old, 10 years old, and developing them. So now I'm getting girls that are been developed already a little bit, or I got to change the philosophy or just the way they're thinking a little bit. Those teams back then, it was I got to develop them, and they had that mindset, to outwork other teams, and so. This team with Scottsbluff is, there's a lot of athletic girls. I mean, tons of them. And but one thing is changing the culture. And we started that a little bit last year, and we continued this year. It's kind of funny, we took some tough losses at state this year, but the younger kids, they mostly the sophomore kids, they've had a lot of success last year and this year. And it's kind of funny because you start seeing their mindset. They were kind of pissed off because they got beat.
Yeah.
They got beat, and they weren't used to that, not getting beat like that. And so it's kind of funny to see that mind kind of switch in their they want to compete. And so I think we're getting there now. We just got to figure out how to get the younger kids involved. And that's probably going to be my toughest job, is how to get to the 14s, the 12-year-olds, and stuff like that.
So going off of state, so obviously this was the first time Scottsbluff had been at the state tournament since 2011. It was all of these girls' first time, your first time. So how was the experience?
My first time, it wasn't too much for me, because I've been into some big games. I played in the World Series in 2013 as the championship, been in all that. So it wasn't as big. Like I was nervous or anything like that. But you could tell the girls were the girls who made it to state after, it was a big thing. They haven't been to state for 10, 11 years. And so I think that played a little bit. I think some of the girls, the scene was big. Mm-hmm. And so it took us a while to kind of figure things out. But, I was pleased, because, that was their goal, just to get to state. And the program in Scottsbluff has only been to state now twice. And so I think it's a good step moving forward.
So I did talk to Brady last week too, but you had two sets of siblings on your team, and two of the four were seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So what were the emotions like, especially with those four, following the loss on, what was it, Thursday?
Yeah, of course, they sad because their sisters are leaving. But it was kind of cool. Those older sisters, like, you got to keep this rolling. Like, we got to keep, this doesn't stop right here. And so the emotions were high after we lost. But I mean, that happens anytime the season ends, anyways.
There's Sasha, Reagan, and Zoe
right,
in there. So there's 3 of them.
Oh.
On that Paya side, Reagan Churchill, right. And they are close. Those kids are close, and it's going to be fun to watch Zoe in the next couple of years.
And those seniors, actually, it's funny because the little sisters, you look at Marley and just some of the other girls like Tatum and even Zoe, they're not used to losing, and so like they had me last year and now this year, and they've had a lot of success. The seniors that they went through a couple years of tough seasons, and then getting to state was good for them, but it's kind of funny to see how the younger kids are, because they're just like, we want to win a game in state. We don't want to just go to state. Now we want to win a game in state. So it's kind of neat to see how their thinking is a little bit different.
Well, now they have a goal.
That's right. Yeah, well, which is make it harder.
And that's that was one of the first things I was taught when I was a kid was, you made it. Making it's one thing, but you got to be down there to win the game. Right. And the experience is great and everything, but I mean, these are teams that you guys were seeing down there are teams that are perennial, power, and they win their districts every year. Who did you guys have? You had Elkhorn.
We played Elkhorn, and then we played Wahoo.
Wahoo, and they, those are 2 pretty storied programs as far as softball is concerned, and you talk about those younger girls. I know all too well about those younger girls because my daughter has been playing against them for years, and I can see where that one's coming from. So they're probably a little deer in the headlights as far as wow, he got down here and we saw some pretty good stuff. But Dan has steered some teams in the past. He steered some teams, and there's no doubt in my mind. Gets a few years under your belt, and these girls are gonna talk about talk about the younger youth programs and stuff and how involved you are with them.
Now I'm more involved now, with the younger programs, but there's a long ways we need to do. I mean, not just in Scottsbluff, this is the whole area of Panhandle. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very tough. For even like Gearing or Alliance, Shatter, and us to do well in state until this area is better at softball, and so that's got to go with our younger program. I was lucky with the Twisters because I took those teams, but we wouldn't go play Colorado, and so we got to see a lot more competition and stuff like that. Well, for our younger programs, I think it's really important. So we're kind of making some steps towards that direction where my coaching staff or my travel coaches can work with them. I'm under guidelines where I can't work with high school kids, so now I got to work with but I got a 10-year-old daughter that I'm involved with, and then I've done some stuff with some of the 12s and stuff like that. But for the whole program in this area, we got to compete more, and it was good to compete against Gearing, and I know they beat us a couple of times, and I don't like to lose, but.
I know.
But I mean, no, you don't. But
nobody does.
But right, nobody does. So, but the thing about it's good to compete, and you want those Alliance and Shadow teams to be better. You want those Gearing teams to be better and us better, because it just makes us better, and it gets us ready for the next step.
Bryanna, you come from a very rich softball area.
Yeah, I do.
What do you think of the teams that you see around here when you go out and watch? Is it kind of mellow compared to what you're used to?
Pretty much, yeah, but I also haven't gotten to see a lot so far. I know I'll probably see more in the future. But, I mean, California, you've got the Corona Angels, the Firecrackers. My sister was a Firecracker for
I watched them play on TV in Boulder. I think was that the Firecracker tournament? No, they have a 4th of July tournament, yeah.
Yeah, that's the Sparkler in Colorado.
Yeah, the Sparkler.
Yeah, my sister played in that. I played with her team at the time, just to get exposure to some of those college coaches.
Yeah.
And those are tournaments where you want to be seen. You want to be one of those teams that are going to just keep going. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, not every team is going to be able to do that.
Right.
And that's where Avery, you know, my daughter, you know, she played at a high level, and so did Sophie and some of those girls back in the day. And
Yeah, talk about Sophie, now you're aging yourself.
yeah, I know. But you know, they played in those big tournaments, you know, in the competition, and the competition, you know, it was nothing new to see. I think it was a difference. Like back when I coached the Twisters, we go play in Colorado or whatever, these national tournaments. You know, like Avery, she's seen it grow through 64, 63, 62. That was nothing. You know, and that's like Brady. And that's where I think Brady's had some success, and where Avery's had success, and even Maddie Weiss last year. They played at a higher level, and they got to see those kind of pitching. So when they come to high school ball in this area, you don't see that, you know. And I think when we went to state this year, every team, those elite 8 teams except for us, you know, had to grow through 62, 63, or well, one grow through 67. So, you know,
It's
insane, right? You know, and so that's what I was talking about. That the Panhandle has to compete a little bit. We got to build, and because we got to see that competition, and I think that's where we're missing a little bit is, you know, unless you're gonna go travel, you don't see the pitching, you know, and that's the key, you know.
With California, Arizona, Texas, you're gonna see that.
Yeah,
My sister pitched.
Every game.
My sister, I think, was her top speed was I think 62, but
Right.
she also had a lot of movement with
Right.
8 different pitches.
Right.
So,
Well, you think about that 67, Kat Osterman threw 72.
right.
So that's, you know, that's a pretty good, that's a pretty
Monica
good,
Abbott can throw.
Yeah, 69 or
69
71, right?
yeah. So, I mean, that's, and you're right, I agree, because I am around the softball, you know, I coach during the summertime, I work with travel teams, you know, I work with kids, and you're right, you know, when I coach rec teams in the summertime, you don't see the pitching.
Right.
That, I mean, I've got, you know, girls that went on to the high school team that, you know, struggled because they weren't even seeing high school speed
Right.
pitching. And so, you know, that was one of the things that I kind of took in as like, you know, we got to develop pitching around here.
Right.
I mean, we've got some great athletic kids around here. Great fielders, great base runners. But the pitching, I mean, like you said, Maddie Weiss last year, and I think Sarah Weiss this year was throwing pretty well. You have a couple of them. The Foos girl throws pretty well.
Yeah. But even that, you know, and I'm not trying to take any away from those girls, but I mean, even, you know, like Liz and Sarah, you know, they're still not, I mean, and they're still pretty young kids, but,
Yeah.
you know, like we went to state athletically, you know, defensively, hitting, we were right there with everybody.
Say Brady Lockman's
Right.
probably one of the most athletic
Right.
infielders in the state.
Right. Yeah, her and you know, and then you have Terrence Beatty in center field,
Yeah.
probably one of the best center fielders. You know, Mariah Bailey was a good athlete. I mean, when we went to state this year, it was like I was pretty proud because I was like, okay, we're better than most teams in this area, this area, this area. Where we're kind of struggling in this area, where Gearing's going to have problems, or Alliance, or Shadow, and ourselves, was the pitching, and you know, nothing against like Liz or Sarah. They still got to develop. They got to get in the weight rooms. All those girls do, and because you know, state, like I said, every girl had a shutdown. Every team had a shutdown pitcher. You know, and we still scored on them though. But when we're throwing 56, you know, that's like batting practice for some of those good hitting teams. You know, and nothing like you can have all the movement, but you gotta have some pitchers that know what they're doing. You
Sure.
have that elite stuff, you know, and which is good. You know, you hope those girls like Liz and Aubrey Barrett, and you know, that they continue to, you know, the Sarah Weiss and all that they continue to work hard to get better. You know, but we got to develop pitching. I mean, in this area.
Yeah, and that's absolutely. You've got a whole list full of
I
stuff
got
over there.
2 of them.
Let's get to them.
But so at the start of the season, I talked with you at the scrimmage. So we talked about what this year looking like last year. So would you say it did, or would you say it exceeded those expectations?
You know, well, I mean, I said you know, I felt like we were a team that could get to state, and we did that. It was a little bit different how I thought we'd get there. You know, we still ran the base as well, but I think as a team we hit 44, 46 home runs. That was a little surprising. I mean, I knew we were gonna be better at hitting the long ball, but I didn't think we were gonna hit that many home runs.
Sure.
So that was kind of cool, and I thought our pitching did fairly well, but I thought it kind of stalled out at the end of the season. And so, nothing against those girls. I think they worked hard, but I just think, it's that grind. And so, yeah, I mean, it was we met our goal. We got to state. I mean, we would have liked to have some things different. Like, we felt like, we could had a little bit better record. We felt like we were one of the best teams here. We lost to Gehring in the districts. That was, I think the girls were pretty upset about that. Actually, it might have helped us because during that week we had a kind of a chip on our shoulder, so we went into that district final with a little attitude. So
Well, you got a host.
yeah, you got a host.
I mean that's
Right.
that's a big plus
It is
right
big,
there.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, Garrett had to travel to Wacoma just to try to make it to state.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think it's harder on the road versus
It is.
Absolutely.
when you're here.
Yeah, and last year we traveled and it was tough, and really we had a good team last year that we could have easily went to state, and I think our pitching was more solid last year. This year our pitching was good, but it needs to get better.
Yeah, it seemed like you were a little deeper maybe last year. I
Yep.
think you had some
Kimber, Avery,
Schellenberger,
Avery was kind of our lead horse, and then Kimber grew,
Yeah, she really did, and and that was, she was, and I know we're talking about last year's team compared to this year's team, but from the beginning of the season last year to the end of the season, I thought Kimber Schellenberger really came along,
Yeah.
and her off speed stuff was pretty
Right.
sick.
Well, and then she was hitting at the end of the year. She was hitting 62 miles per hour.
Yeah, so you could tell she was throwing a lot harder.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's development. That's working hard, and good for her. I think she went on to play on a club team, or did she go on?
No,
to
she
play?
went to St. Mary's, and I think she's playing softball.
Yeah, she's
right?
playing softball there.
Yeah.
So
all three of the girls are playing softball from last year, and I guess that's another thing too. We got 3 girls that were seniors last year. They're playing softball, college softball this year. We have 6 girls, and I believe 5 of them are going to get recruited.
well, I know that Sasha Paez is being looked at right now by Hastings,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure Scottsbluff's getting a little more of a look
Mm-hmm.
this year compared to the last few years
Right.
that they have in the past. And as a coach, that's what you want to do.
Right.
You want to put these kids into the next level and let them play at the next level. And I think knowing you as well as I do, you coach at that next level in order to help them get there. So it's a little bit more easy of a transition. And Bryanna is sitting on some more questions
Yeah.
over there.
Oh no, it's pretty much gotten, that last one's pretty much gotten answered already, because it was just about how you feel like they did overall this season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm excited for what holds for those seniors though. I mean, so, no, I think we got a lot of good things happening for us though. We got, like I said, we got to develop the younger players though.
Let's talk a little bit about you've got a pretty experienced coaching staff too. With Sarah Klein in there and the rest of the crew. It was a crew that I kind of wanted to be on last year when you got picked up. But talk a little bit about what you always had solid coaching staffs. Your Twister staff was solid, and now your Scottsbluff staff is solid, and they're very, very involved in the process too. How big have they been for you?
To be honest with you, it was probably harder for them to adjusting to me. Because I probably micromanaged a little bit in the bening because you're trying to develop your
not you,
philosophy. So,
Dan.
yeah. So, but they've been a very important role. It's funny when you start a whole, like last year when you get all new coaches, you don't know each other that well. That he's got to build that relationship, and I think that's been a kind of a strong point this year is that trust with one another. Tanya does a great job working in the infield. I mean, she's very good at it. So, you got Krista who's building those relationships, and then Sarah's just she has a lot of knowledge, and you got to trust your coaching staff, and for me it takes a while. I was used to like building my coaching staff and building relationships, and it was kind of we're just being jumped into it,
Well, yeah, you had your dad,
Right,
you had
yeah.
Gary, and you had that whole
Lance
crew.
Rogers
yeah.
back in the day, Matt Schubarth, and all them. So, but with these ladies, they've been awesome, and during the season, the philosophy doesn't just go with the kids about outwork and outplay. It's the coaches too. We got to coach, and you can't just say, well, go take a ground ball, or go hit.
Well, I've talked to you, I don't know how many times this year, and you told me, hey, they coached better than I did in this situation, and, I knew that I made this mistake, or I knew, and, good coaches do that.
Right.
And the last thing I've got before I give it back off to Bryanna is the community and the parents and, everybody that's, the thing about Scottsbluff is it's always had, in a lot of situations, maybe the softball team's kind of overlooked a little bit, but I think that one of the biggest, because you go to a Scottsbluff softball game, it's packed.
Mm-hmm.
There's people everywhere, and I think that it's really growing on people here. I think that it's got a great following around here. Talk a little bit about, the people that are backing this program, and between the businesses and I know Shane Wilson at Scottsbluff Green Prairie, he zipped you guys out some shirts and stuff. I know Ralph Paez has thrown a lot of support behind the team. I mean, his daughters play, but I know Ralph, he'll keep doing it even after Zoe's gone. But tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the community has been amazing. Actually, it's funny because I don't know everybody here in this town, still, and but you get, the community has been great. The businesses have been great. In the support, and it's funny, you get, I think I'm just kind of like one of those guys that just walks down the street, but they're, you get people come up like, hey, great job, coach, you guys are looking good, and you're like, I don't know you,
I think Bryanna and I probably go through that a little bit too.
I've also only been here a few months, so nobody really knows who I am.
And a lot of support, I got even from, not just the businesses, I get a lot of messages from, hey, good job, or the girls look good, things like that, but just even in the school district, the other coaches, and it was really cool to see at the district finals, the volleyball coach, can't think of her name.
Leslie?
Yeah, and, sorry. And,
that's fine.
But they had a volleyball game, and the next thing you know, she's at the district finals when we're winning it and celebrating with the girls, and, you had, other coaches, and so there, that's kind of cool, and that's one thing I noticed with Scottsbluff. There's a good, when my daughter went to her senior year, she said the spirit, there's a spirit here in Scottsbluff, and not just with the coaches, the community too, and teachers, and she said, like, nothing against the other schools or anything, but I definitely feel it, so maybe that's more pressure on us, but there is a spirit, and everybody's kind of cheering other sports on, so that's kind of cool. It's really neat to see,
Well, is there anything else that you wanted to add? Because I don't have any more questions.
He's definitely we said it before we came on camera, was that Dan Fox is probably the only guy in the world that has more on his plate than I do. I'd like to know how many miles you put on your vehicle coming back and forth to Torrington.
Oh, jeez. Every day. No,
like I said, the hardest working guy in sports here. He makes a 40-mile round trip.
Well, you gotta love the game.
Yeah.
And once you love the game, you'll do a lot of stuff for it, and and that's the thing. I'll work with kids anytime, and it's cool to see these kids develop, and like these seniors who are graduating, they're gonna go play college softball, and if they don't play college softball, that's fine too. But I know we talked about it before with. I really believe when these athletes are playing a sport, a team sport, and they work together. I mean, I look at all the past players, they're very successful, strong women. Mm-hmm. And, I can name a lot, Michaela Butler or Jaramillo now, and then there's, Jessica Rogers, they're just Rayleigh Riley, and I can say about some of these girls like Avery Fox, and they're just strong women. And that's one thing I take pride in, doing softball with them is, they're a team, and they got that competitive nature, and they go out in professional.
Shaylee Rickard.
Shaylee Rickard, Marissa Santos,
Yeah, they never stop being teammates.
Either. No, and they take that to their jobs, and that, they take that to their families, their jobs, and I have a lot of great relationships with a lot of those kids still, and even the kids today, and it's really cool to see how they fall. Cassandra Bastillos, just all those girls who they just talk about like how softball made them stronger, and just work ethic, and so to me, that's rewarding. So
Absolutely. You know, you heard it here. That's this place to be. Well, Dan Fox, Scottsbluff head coach, congratulations on your
thanks, sir.
district win this year.
getting to state.
Huh?
Getting to state.
Getting to
Getting to
state.
state. Well, yeah, that's what I love. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
Is getting to state. And if you got anything else,
I don't, but thank you so much
All
for
right.
joining us. And then make sure to pick up a print edition of the Star-Herald, or for more sports coverage, go to star-herald.com.